There's a certain kind of person who reads a room before they even sit down in it. They notice the slight tension between two people across the table. They catch the pause that lasts a beat too long. They sense when someone's smile doesn't quite reach their eyes. They walk into a new environment and, within minutes, have quietly mapped the emotional terrain of everyone in it. Most people around them have no idea this is happening. To the outside world, this person just seems observant, thoughtful, maybe a little quiet. What nobody really stops to ask is, where did that come from? Why is that person wired this way? Society tends to praise this kind of sensitivity in abstract terms. She's so perceptive. He just gets people, but it rarely follows that thread back to where it actually began. And here's what doesn't get said nearly enough. For a lot of people, this level of awareness wasn't something they chose. It was something they were trained into, by their earliest years, by an environment that required it. What we're really talking about, when we pull back the curtain, is the hidden cognitive legacy of early adversity. Psychologists have spent decades studying what happens to a child's brain when their home environment is unpredictable, when safety isn't guaranteed. When a child has to spend cognitive energy not on play, not on idle curiosity, but on reading the adults around them, trying to anticipate what's coming next. What that research reveals is something most people never hear. Difficulty doesn't only wound. Under certain conditions and at real cost, it sharpens. This isn't a feel-good reframe. It's neuroscience. When a child grows up in an environment with chronic low-level stress, not necessarily dramatic, not necessarily visible from the outside, their nervous system adapts. The brain's threat detection circuitry, anchored in the amygdala and connected deeply to the prefrontal cortex, becomes exquisitely calibrated. Research out of institutions like Harvard's Center on the Developing Child has documented how early adversity accelerates the development of certain cognitive functions: hypervigilance, pattern recognition, social attunement. These aren't disorders. They're adaptations. They are the brain doing exactly what brains are designed to do: learn to survive the specific world it was born into. The child who had to sense a parent's mood before walking through the front door grew a kind of social radar that most people simply never develop. The child who had to navigate inconsistency, unpredictability, or emotional volatility learned, very early, how to hold multiple possibilities in their mind at once. They became fluent in subtext, skilled at reading silence, practiced at anticipating need. These are not small things. In the vocabulary of psychology, they map onto what researchers call complex emotional intelligence, and in some cases, onto traits associated with heightened creative and cognitive flexibility. None of this happened by choice. That matters. The nervous system didn't sit down one day and decide to become more perceptive. It responded to what was being asked of it. Survival, in early environments where safety was uncertain, looked a lot like awareness, and so the brain made awareness a priority. This is not to say that every person who experienced a difficult childhood is gifted, or that trauma should ever be minimized into a silver lining. That framing would be dishonest and, frankly, insulting to the real weight of what so many people carry. The costs are real. The hypervigilance that once served a purpose doesn't automatically turn off in adulthood. The same attunement that helped a child survive can make rest feel impossible. Intimacy can feel like exposure. Stillness can feel like danger. The nervous system learned a lesson it doesn't easily unlearn. And here is the paradox that rarely gets named openly. The traits that made someone more perceptive, more emotionally fluent, more attuned to complexity, those same traits often become the source of their deepest exhaustion. The person who reads every room also can't stop reading every room. The person who anticipates others' needs often learn that their own went unmet. The strength and the wound are not separate things. They are the same adaptation, seen from two different angles. What's worth sitting with is this. If you are someone who feels things more deeply than the people around you seem to, if you've always been the one who senses what goes unsaid, if you find yourself exhausted by environments that others seem to move through effortlessly, if you've always had an unusually clear sense of what other people feel, even when they don't say it, you were probably not born this way in a vacuum. You were likely shaped this way by something early, by something real. And the part of you that learned all of that learned it under pressure, learned it young, learned it because it had to. That part of you is not broken. It is extraordinarily well trained. The question that might be worth living with isn't whether these traits are strengths or wounds. It's this: now that you don't need them for survival, what do you want to do with them? That's a different kind of question than most people are asked. And if this landed somewhere real for you, there's more beneath it, about why certain people are drawn to depth, to solitude, to meaning, about what it costs to be someone who feels everything, and what it quietly gives.